The Young and the Restless spoilers shock Friday's July 18, 2025. The tension in Genoa City is about to reach a boiling point, as Chancellor prepares to interrogate the key players in the mysterious events that have rocked the community. This momentous turn of events promises to unearth secrets, expose lies, and place the spotlight squarely on those with the most to lose. As the investigation intensifies, the fallout will be felt across the canvas of the show, with each character forced to face uncomfortable truths about themselves, their actions, and their relationships with others. Chance, always determined to uncover the truth, will gather all the significant players in the case together, bringing them into the same space, a train car, symbolizing both the journey ahead and the tension among those involved. As they sit there, waiting for the inevitable confrontation, Lily's voice will break through the silence. She will demand to know what happened, who is responsible, and why they are all sitting in this precarious situation. Chance, ever the professional, will assure her that he will stop at nothing to find the truth. But there's an edge to his voice, a hint of doubt about the ease with which this will all unfold. The first major question will come from Devon. His skepticism about Kane's involvement will be palpable. Isn't it strange, he'll ask, that Kane could have predicted this? His words will linger in the air, prompting Chance to respond that Kane had in fact sent someone down the mountain to notify the authorities. But even Chance, normally so confident, will hesitate, admitting that it's unclear how long it will take for help to arrive. The sense of urgency will be undeniable. The investigation is moving, but it feels like the walls are closing in on those present. Amanda, ever the sharp investigator, won't be far behind. Her questioning will cut through the tension as she turns her attention to Kane. So, she'll ask, "Are you trying to hide something?" Her words will hang in the air like a challenge. Kane, typically stoic, will struggle to contain the rising pressure, but the guilt in his eyes will be hard to miss. He'll try to maintain his composure, but the weight of Amanda's accusation will begin to break through his defenses. The cracks in his calm demeanor will be evident to anyone watching. The true emotional weight will fall on Lily, who will demand a direct answer. "So you're calling this murder?" The coldness of her words will shock those around her, but it will only serve to heighten the stakes. Chance, never one to shy away from the truth, will nod solemnly, confirming her suspicion. He will not mince words. This isn't just an accident, it's a deliberate act, and the person responsible will be held accountable. Lily, though, will not back down. Her eyes will narrow as she delivers a damning assessment. Only one person here has a real motive for murder. Her gaze will shift toward Kane, and the room will go silent. The implication is clear. Kane, once again, is the prime suspect. His past, filled with secrets, lies, and betrayals, has caught up with him. The pressure will be insurmountable as every eye turns to him, silently demanding answers. Kane will understand why all eyes are on him, but his response will be chillingly calm. He'll speak in measured tones, acknowledging the suspicion but offering a defense. "I get it," he'll say, his voice low but steady. "I understand why everyone is looking at me. But I am the one who's been set up. I'm the one who's been targeted." In that moment, the room will collectively feel the weight of the truth. Kane's denial is powerful, but there's something about it that rings false. The truth, as always, is more complicated than any of them are prepared for. Kane may claim to be the target, but is he truly innocent? Or is he the mastermind behind the shocking turn of events? The questions will swirl, each one as dangerous and unresolved as the last. As Chance continues his interrogation, it becomes clear that everyone present has something to hide. Lily, desperate for answers, will begin to piece together the complex web of relationships, motives, and secrets that have led to this moment. What is Kane truly hiding? What does Amanda suspect? Why is Devon so certain that Kane's actions were premeditated? And, perhaps most crucially, what role does Phyllis play in all of this? The next steps of the investigation will be fraught with tension, as Chance pushes each person closer to revealing their truths. The revelation of Kane's past, combined with his enigmatic defense, will add layers to the puzzle, forcing everyone to confront the possibility that the person they thought they knew may not be who they appear to be. The investigation is only beginning, but already the stakes have been raised. The answer to the central question, who is responsible for this crime, may lie just out of reach, but with every passing moment, the walls are closing in, and no one will leave the train car unscathed. The road to the truth will be filled with twists and turns, betrayals, and unexpected alliances. In the world of Genoa City, nothing is ever as it seems, and as Chance digs deeper into the lives of those around him, the darkness hiding just beneath the surface will threaten to swallow them all. As secrets unravel and the investigation intensifies, it will become clear that no one is safe from the fallout of this deadly game. Let me know if you'd like further expansions or more dramatic revelations on this plot. As the bitter taste of suspicion thickened in the air, Chance knew that time was slipping through his fingers. With every passing second, the events surrounding Damien Kane's death were becoming more tangled, more dangerous, and more likely to shatter the fragile alliances among those present. And so he began to lay out the newest piece of the puzzle, the bourbon. He told them about the bottle, pulled from his own private reserve, shared between himself and Damien in what had seemed like a moment of uneasy peace, perhaps even reconciliation. But what should have been a casual drink had become something else entirely. The bourbon, Chance explained, had been laced with a sedative. Both men drank it, yet only one of them had died. So, Lily asked, her voice cracking with disbelief, Damien drank the drugged bourbon and then disappeared, while you were fine? The silence that followed was dense, charged, and suffocating. Chance could only nod slowly, unsure whether the sedative had missed its mark or whether someone had intervened to protect him, or perhaps eliminate Damien specifically. The truth soon emerged with devastating clarity. Damien had not simply disappeared. His body had been found, brutally stabbed, the unmistakable imprint of a dagger wound buried deep into his back. The scene was savage, personal, and precise. As Chance recounted the details, Kane silently approached, a small wooden box in his hands. With eerie calm, he opened it to reveal the very dagger believed to have taken Damien's life. Lily's breath caught in her throat. So he was drugged with your bourbon, she whispered, her voice rising in horror, and then stabbed with your knife? The implications were horrifying. The evidence was suffocating. And as Kane stood there, holding the box like a relic from a ritual gone wrong, it became clear that the lines between victim, suspect, and executioner were beginning to blur. Lily's mind raced. She turned to Devon, panic bleeding into her voice. How do we tell Amy? How do we tell Nate? Her words fell like stones in a well, echoing against the thick silence. And just like that, Chance announced that his next step would be to interrogate Phyllis. But the moment of clarity would not last. Kane, visibly rattled but still clinging to his defense, made his way to the cocktail preparation area, where Amanda waited. Her eyes were hard, focused, stripped of sentiment. She had been patient long enough, but now she needed answers, real answers, unclouded by charm or deflection. I need you to be honest with me, she said, her voice low but urgent. I need to know, did you have anything to do with this murder? Kane exploded with outrage, insisting that of course he hadn't. But Amanda wasn't done. Her gaze was relentless. These facts, this trail, they're not coincidences, Kane. They're patterns. And patterns form narratives. Narratives form charges. So ask yourself, how do you think this looks to everyone else? Her words carved directly into his guilt, leaving him raw. I'm not trying to frighten you, Amanda added, softening only slightly. But the way this has unfolded, it's not working in your favor. We both know you have direct ties to law enforcement in Nice. So what are you hiding, Kane? What haven't you told us? He stared back, stone-faced, but his silence betrayed more than any confession could have. The implication that Kane could be manipulating the international response or orchestrating the timeline of events to his benefit gnawed at Amanda, and her instincts, honed from years in courtrooms, told her this was more than circumstantial. It was orchestrated. It was methodical. And it was deeply personal. Back in her room, Lily collapsed onto the edge of the bed, her mind reeling, her heart pounding against a cage of doubt. Devon and Abby were there, but they could only watch helplessly as she unraveled. "What if this is my fault?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What if I pushed Kane too hard? What if I gave him no way out?" Her eyes glistened with tears, but there was no room for comfort now, only the need for truth. "And what if the father of my children is a murderer?" Her voice, once steady and powerful, now trembled with despair. The emotional scaffolding she had built over years of reconciliation, of co-parenting, of guarded trust, it was crumbling beneath her. She remembered the way Kane had dismissed Damien, the finality in his words, the coldness in his eyes. Yet, he had invited him back. Why? To make peace? Or to set a trap? Devon tried to reason with her, reminding her that murder was a leap, not just emotionally, but logically. "That's absurd," he said, but even he could hear the weakness in his voice. The pieces didn't fit, yet they were all cut from the same jagged puzzle. Lily pressed him again, her desperation now ablaze. "Do you think Kane intended to kill Damien from the very beginning?" she asked. Devon hesitated. "Maybe he was the target," he admitted. "But not for the reasons we think. Maybe there's a whole history between them that we don't know about." That possibility, chilling and plausible, opened a new door to doubt. What if the hostility wasn't just about a single betrayal or a business deal gone sour? What if this was revenge steeped in years of bitterness, old scores that never healed? As night fell over the mountain retreat, the once idyllic isolation became a cage of secrets. Kane was now at the center of a whirlwind he could no longer control. Amanda was watching him closely, balancing her emotional past with him against the ethical line she could not cross. Lily was slipping into a spiral of shame and guilt, her love for Kane colliding with her sense of justice. Devon, though outwardly calm, was assembling a mental case file, piece by piece, driven by a need to protect Lily and expose the truth. And Abby, usually a bystander in chaos, found herself becoming a quiet confidant, a mirror to Lily's torment. Meanwhile, Chance moved silently, calculating his next steps. The bourbon, the knife, the timeline, it was all damning. Yet something didn't sit right. Everything was too neat, too symbolically connected. A man killed by the very things he shared with his suspected killer? It was either poetic justice or carefully engineered framing. And then there was Phyllis, whom he had yet to question. Her knowledge, her proximity, her intuition, Chance knew she might be the final thread. But what she said could either collapse Kane's world or open a new direction entirely. Whatever the truth was, one fact was undeniable: someone among them had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. And once the final pieces fell into place, the fallout wouldn't just affect Kane. It would tear through families, destroy reputations, and rewire the emotional architecture of everyone involved. The dagger that ended Damien's life may have pierced only one man's back. But its wound had split Genoa City wide open. Elsewhere, far from the mounting storm in the train car and the unraveling suspicions pressing down on Kane, Nick made his way with heavy steps to Sharon's room. The shadows under his eyes reflected more than exhaustion; they were lined with grief, disbelief, and the creeping dread that the entire trip had been a calculated trap. As he stepped through the door, Sharon's worried gaze met his, and in a moment of quiet finality, he broke the silence. "I can't find my parents," he admitted, his voice ragged. "Something's wrong. There's been a murder." The words hung in the air like ash. Sharon froze, her hand clutching the arm of the chair. "It's Damien," Nick continued. "He was stabbed, straight through the back." The news hit Sharon like a thunderclap. She had sensed the tension on the mountain, the fractures in every relationship stretched thin by proximity and buried resentment, but this? Murder? She immediately pressed for details. Was anyone else there? Any witnesses aside from Kane? She asked, her voice calm, but her eyes burning with urgency. Nick exhaled. Phyllis, he said, almost like a question. A lifeline. A complication. Her name was always somewhere near the center of every storm. He explained that Kane had claimed the dagger was meant for him, that someone else must have turned it on Damien instead. That detail alone shifted the direction of suspicion. If Kane is telling the truth, Nick said, pacing the room like a man trying to outrun his own suspicions, then he's either a target or he's trying to shift the blame. The pieces weren't fitting, but the emerging shape was unmistakably sinister. Nick paused, then added with grim certainty, if I'm right, this trip to hell is about to take an even darker turn. Sharon's mind moved quickly. Her thoughts flickered to Victor. Do you think Kane will try to blame your father? She asked. Nick didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. If that happens, Sharon continued, Michael will get involved. And when he does, he'll act fast to protect Victor. We both know it. But then her thoughts shifted again, this time to Phyllis. The woman who always seemed to walk the edge of danger, pride, and survival. And what about her? Sharon asked. How is this going to affect Phyllis? The question wasn't about guilt. It was about collateral damage. Phyllis had a way of getting tangled in the worst of things, even when she didn't cause them. Back in the dining room, Phyllis was struggling with her own unease. She wasn't shaken by blood or bodies, she had seen worse in her life, but something about the maze was still gnawing at her subconscious. She leaned over the table, whispering mostly to herself but loud enough for Chance to catch the words. Something's wrong with the maze, she said, her brows furrowed. It's like someone rearranged it on purpose. Not just to confuse us, but to distract us. Someone's trying to manipulate our movements. It wasn't just paranoia. Phyllis's instincts were razor-sharp, honed by years of betrayal, deceit, and her own history of outmaneuvering enemies far more dangerous than Kane. Chance, listening closely, locked eyes with her. Did you see anything at all, that links Kane directly to Damien's death? His tone was measured but heavy with implication. The room was thick with anticipation. Phyllis paused, her lips tightening. She could feel the heat of the moment and the weight of every word she was about to say. No, she answered. I didn't see him do anything. Then, in a move both defensive and strategic, she added, and maybe you should be looking elsewhere. It wasn't a dismissal, it was a deflection. Chance didn't let it go. His next question struck hard. Are you covering for Kane? The accusation wasn't cruel, it was calculated. Chance needed to know where everyone stood. He needed to break the chain of loyalty that might be obstructing the truth. Phyllis's reply came swift and certain. I would never protect a killer just because we work together, she said coldly. Whatever you think you know about me, know this, I pick survival over loyalty. Every time. Her voice shook only slightly, a testament not to guilt, but to the emotional minefield she was being forced to navigate. She went further, doubling down on her account. He couldn't have hidden the bourbon. Or the dagger, she insisted. I was with him, practically the entire time. Every movement, every conversation. If he had done something like that, I would have noticed. And that, perhaps, was the most damning piece of all, not because it cleared Kane, but because it opened the door to an even darker possibility, that someone else had orchestrated the entire event while they were all distracted by each other. Chance, now conflicted, took a mental step back. He knew Phyllis well enough to understand that her version of the truth was always laced with strategy. She played to survive. But that didn't make her a liar, it made her dangerous. And in this case, perhaps the only one with eyes sharp enough to see what no one else had. Her theory about the maze now seemed less like a hunch and more like a warning. Someone had set the stage. Someone had led Damien into a trap. And someone had used Kane's history, his volatility, and his proximity to make it all seem like the perfect crime. But nothing was perfect. The bourbon was drugged, but Chance survived. The dagger belonged to Kane, but no one saw him use it. The maze was rearranged, but no one admitted to entering it. And Phyllis was rattled, but not afraid, which in itself was suspicious. She was watching everyone now. Studying their movements. Gathering her own data. If Chance was playing detective, Phyllis was playing chess. And she had always been several moves ahead. Meanwhile, in Sharon's room, Nick paced restlessly, still haunted by what he had seen: Damien's lifeless body, the blood, the betrayal that had soaked the ground like spilled truth. Sharon, ever composed but never cold, watched him. "You need to be careful," she said. "If Kane feels cornered, he'll lash out. And if Victor gets implicated, real or not, it's going to turn from murder to war." Nick nodded, but his eyes were clouded. "It already feels like war," he whispered. And somewhere in that quiet space between accusation and proof, between fear and justice, the story inched closer to its breaking point. One man was dead. Another was the prime suspect. The maze had been turned into a game board. The weapon had returned to its box. The bourbon had been laced, and yet no one could explain who had done it, when, or why. But everyone, in some way, had blood on their hands. If not literally, then by silence, complicity, or hesitation. The truth hadn't surfaced yet. But it was rising. Fast. And when it did, it would drown whoever had dared believe they could manipulate fate and get away with it.